Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the KOR universe. Uh, this time again, I kept saying it, but this time we are really happy to be included in the schedule of one of the maybe more busier nights, especially during this election season. Sir Jeff D of the international headquarters who headed the virtual election. So, Sir Jeff, would you like to greet our audience?
Uh, Hello to all brother knights, and I feel privileged to be interviewed by Sir Alwin. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor. And to our brother knights, I hope you did vote for our very historic online election that happened last Sunday. And of course, congratulations to the newly elected Supreme Council for Rizalian year 2021 to 2023. Also, congratulations to the outgoing Supreme Council members for Rizalian year 2018 to 2020, supposedly till 2020, but extended until 2021.
That's right. So, sir, how did you start with the Knights of Rizal? I mean, can you? I mean, not everybody know you. So, for those who are watching this, they get a privilege on knowing a little bit more
Yeah,
about you. Can you tell us a little briefly about how you started with the Knights of Rizal and your background, maybe?
yeah. So actually, I was exposed to the Knights of Rizal from an early age. Back in when I was in grade 6, siguro, ano yun eh, late 80s to early 90s, yan na lang. I actually won the oratorical competition of the Knights of Rizal. It's, imagine, no, in late 80s, you are in your grade 6 and you won 25,000 pesos, no, in a competition. So you really feel so, wow, the Knights of Rizal are very mayayaman, no? Members of the bourgeoisie, I guess. The Ilustrados, parang ganun. Then after that, in high school, I again won the Knights of Rizal for essay writing competition. So I went to Baguio for those competitions. So the Supremo called me up, asked me about, can you help out with the election? We had a short conversation, maybe 30 minutes over the phone or less. Uh, and then he asked me if I know about the Knights of Rizal. I told him, yes, I know about the Knights of Rizal. I have trophies and medals from the Knights of Rizal. In fact, I was involved in your activities until college. And then he told me, why don't you join the Knights of Rizal? You already know about us. Why don't you join? So I did join. And then eventually I became the election administrator for this election.
Now, can you tell me about this election body?
Yeah. Well, it's actually just a commercial system that you pay per election. My specialization kasi is automated elections. I wrote a thesis for that in my master's with the University of London Royal Holloway, and then I was involved in the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee on the conduct of our own automated election.
Now, aside from the Knights of Rizal, the NAACP used election body as well for their election this last year. So it's would you say it's a widely used new technology?
Yes, it is. It's even used by the primaries of the, if I'm not mistaken, by the Democratic Party in Utah. So it's even used by political parties, by universities for their elections.
Okay, very nice. So this just concluded election. We are 2 days away from the just concluded election. It was the 19th. It's the 21st here in the States anyway.
Okay.
The 22nd over there in the Philippines. So how's your thoughts on the process?
Yes. I hope that the members of the Knights of Rizal do appreciate the length that we did to make the election more transparent, even though it's online. The problem, usually a political exercise such as elections, the problem usually is not the technology, but usually the transparency of the process. And we did go to great lengths to introduce transparency. We conducted 3 mock elections. More than that, we actually did a well, public demonstration of the system. We also did, which was participated by hundreds of Knights of Rizal through Zoom. No? We also did the most important process that we did was the uploading of the voters list, which was again done publicly. Of course, we have to not so public because of privacy issues. We cannot expose the numbers and the email addresses of our voters. But we did broadcast portions of the election configuration and voters list uploading via Facebook without revealing, of course, the email addresses and other private information of our voters. And but the entire process was witnessed by the poll watchers and the candidates themselves.
So, sir, can you share with us the statistics that you got from the election?
Ito yan. So you will notice that in the local, there are 742 ballots submitted out of 947. For the overseas, there are 179 out of 220. And for the 100%, Middle East and Africa region, 100%. So thank you to Sir Zain Terwal, the KGCR of the MAR for really facilitating that everybody in MAR votes or voted. So if we do a calculator on that one. So that's 742 plus 179 plus 15. That's 936. Divide that by 1,182. That's 79.19% voter turnout.
Now, that's pretty good number, sir.
Yes, yes.
Why do you think there is a big turnout of the registered voters? Why?
Well, I'm sorry.
Is it because of the ease of voting?
I would believe so. No, it would be the ease of voting. FYI, these ballots does not count the people who actually. Let me show you. There are 5 people. For example, here is the data for. Again, these are all available for everyone to view. You can even download the results and do an analysis of the results yourselves. No? For example, here in US, there are 5 who opened but did not vote. Sorry, this is local, and in overseas there is 1 who opened but did not vote. So these people can vote because they were able to open, but they chose not to for whatever reason. I guess the high voter turnout is because of the ease of the. You're right, no, it's because of the ease of voting. Plus, let us not forget that this is the first time that the overseas voters were able to vote in these numbers. In the past, the overseas voters would only vote if they were able to fly to Manila, participate in the General Assembly, which is usually done in the Manila Hotel. And how many of these overseas voters can fly to Manila? Does have the resources and the time to be able to fly to Manila? I would be guessing less than 20, right? So the interest leading to the election from the overseas voters are really immense.
With the success of this online voting, with the tremendous numbers that you just showed us, do you think that in the next coming Supreme Council elections, online voting will be a part, either as a whole or as a part in the election process? What's your read?
I don't wanna impose anything to the newly elected Supreme Council members. But I think based on casual conversations that we're having, I think in the future it would be a hybrid election.
Now, when you say hybrid, when you say hybrid, can you define that so that they would understand, our viewers would understand?
So there's still clamor for face-to-face interaction, not necessarily voting, but for face-to-face interaction. After all, we're we're fraternal brothers and we want to be able to interact with each other, and given a circumstance or given the opportunity to be able to meet each other. So there will still be a general assembly after this COVID quarantine issues are behind us, and we'll still be seeing each other face to face. So hybrid would mean that those who cannot come will still be able to vote online. Those who can come will still vote. My suggestion is not using paper ballots, but using kiosks, which will be available in the General Assembly site. So it's still an online voting, but then it will be easier for those on site because they can use the kiosks to be able to vote. Yeah, so that's how we see it for a hybrid election, because it's not only the huge voter turnout that we should look into, but also the speed by which we did the canvassing. Like I said, no, as soon by 2:31 p.m. GMT plus 8 PH Standard Time, the results were already published in the website. The unofficial quick tally results were already published in the website, and we came out with an announcement 30 minutes later of who won the election.
The technology is there and it works pretty good as far as speed, as accuracy of counting. But however, the human factor is still there. It could only be as accurate as the humans behind the process. Now, there are questions about, well, first of all, payment. But the mere fact that there's over 1,000 names who paid, I think shows that though there was initially a violent reaction about paying, people still paid to vote. In fact, the first phase, I think there were like 850, and then it went up to 1182. Is that correct? That number is
Yes,
correct?
that's the final count. Yes, 1182.
So instead of staying put, it actually even went up. So
yes,
the election being a paid election does not seem to bother as initially thought it would.
Let me emphasize this. No, it's okay. How would I say it? In the bylaws, the qualified voters are listed there. There's also chapter voters, but then the payment is technically not for the election. The payment is for the General Assembly, because there's still a General Assembly. It's a virtual General Assembly. So it was some sort of saying that I was present in the General Assembly, therefore I can vote. Okay, so that's actually why the payment was there. It's not a ruling. Technically, it's not a ruling of the Electoral Tribunal, but it's rather more about the dynamics of there's still a General Assembly and then there's an election, etc. And traditionally, the only ones who can vote are those who are registered for the General Assembly. So I guess that's where the dynamics of the discussion was coming in. So basically, what happened was you have to be registered for the General Assembly to be able to vote, and to be able to register for the General Assembly, you have to pay the registration fees for the General Assembly. Same way with if it's hybrid. Remember that when we were planning this July, I guess, we were thinking of a hybrid election. Therefore, there will be people coming to Manila Hotel. So when we were thinking of a hybrid election, it has to be fair, no? People will pay the registration fees to be able to come to Manila Hotel. And so the others who have the comfort of being able to vote from their homes should still be, quote unquote, virtually present in the General Assembly, ergo the payment. So that's the, how would I say it? That's how the discussion came along for that payment. So it's not paying to vote. It's paying to be able to register for the General Assembly.
I did read some of the Facebook entries,
statements,
and I do remember that one of the justifications for that initially was $60 and then down to $30 for the overseas, and then from 1,500 pesos to 1,000 pesos. Was that
Yes.
they would need to pay for the program, they would need to pay for the assembly, they would need to pay for the staff, they would need to pay for
Yeah.
the venue.
Yeah.
Uh, but you're saying that actually it's just the payment actually is about having the token of knowing that you were there during that assembly.
It's a payment to be registered in the General Assembly. That was the initial discussion, huh? Because these were imposed by the Supreme Council. I'm not a member of the Supreme Council. I'm only a member of the Electoral Tribunal. So when we were discussing this in the Electoral Tribunal, along with the Supreme Council, in one of those rare moments, very rare moments, where the Electoral Tribunal and the Supreme Council has a joint discussion. That was the discussion. The discussion was hybrid election. People will go to the Manila Hotel, and how much is going to be the registration in the Manila Hotel. And then people said, how about those who can vote online? Do they need to pay for something? Because, I mean, it should be fair, right? Because people are going to Manila Hotel to vote, and then people who may be able to vote should be able to, should also, quote unquote, register for the General Assembly. So they came up with those numbers. Now, how
Now,
they came up with the numbers of $60, $30, 1,500 pesos, 1,000 pesos, I'm sorry, I'm not privy to that information.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
I guess they were planning that meeting in July. You said
Yeah, that
that's
was early July. If I
okay. That meeting
memory
in
serves me
early
right.
July, and as we know, the COVID protocols changed.
Correct.
Uh, in other words, what I'm trying to say is they were planning on an event that didn't happen. But anyway, since they announced that they were gonna charge money anyway. Let's might
Yes.
as well go ahead and do it.
Yeah, because somebody already paid. So we have to also understand the administration part of the Supreme Council. No? Somebody already paid, or a lot of people already paid. In fact, 1 week before the third mock election, or sorry, 1 week before the election, we still thought we can go to Manila Hotel.
So I guess my question is, if the way it happened is how you presented it now, uh, should what happens to the guard to the money, since the election
Well,
actually
it goes to the general coffers.
okay.
Um,
I
the
guess the
Supreme Exchequer and the Supreme Auditor should be able to account for it.
but I guess
Yeah.
one question was also about where were you when I don't know if you're privy to the information too, when they disqualified one nominee, Peralta. Was that
Ah,
even discussed, and were you
yes,
part
yes.
of that? And
The
how did that come
electoral, yeah.
about that he was disqualified and then he wasn't disqualified?
Okay. So, without going through the details of the discussion of the Electoral Tribunal, because the Electoral Tribunal is a collegiate body, I'm just a member. That's a very tough question, by the way, to answer. So I have to tread carefully without offending my colleagues in the Electoral Tribunal, and also without divulging too much facts. Because as you know, while the resolutions are public, the final decisions of the Electoral Tribunal are public, the discussions are private and confidential. So what I can say is, yes, I was there. I was a member of the Electoral Tribunal, and therefore I was there. The decision was first rendered by the Nominations Committee. I think that's the chair was Sir William Casarino. After which, after which we published a list of a list of candidates based on the recommendations of the nomination committee. And then candidate, now Supreme Auditor, Sir Danilo Peralta, gave what do you call that?
Reply?
Sent sent a motion for reconsideration for his disqualification. And then there was a very tough decision to make, because that motion for reconsideration was given to us. Let's just say it's a buzzer beater. There were deadlines that has to be met. We received it late, although the Secretariat said that they received it quite early. I think a day before the deadline or so. And then in the end, we discussed and we said that there's a lot of things happening in this world. Besides, why don't we judge the merit of the motion for reconsideration on substance rather than on technicalities?
So the re-inclusion of Sir Peralta, what happened because he changed the location of the nomination chapter.
No,
He was nominated by Bataan chapter.
Yeah. Now
But he
that's
wasn't
going
a
into the
resident.
details. Yeah. Yeah,
But he wasn't a
now you're
resident.
going to the details, huh?
But this is very important though, because why is this important? Because this is the first time that non Philippine residents are nominees to the regular members of the
Supreme Council.
Supreme Council. I apologize. I did extend my invitation to Sir Judge Tirso Velasco, and actually he pointed at you to represent him.
Yes.
Him. So I'm asking you these questions, and I know that if you within your faculties you can maybe expound on what happened. But do you think that was there a discussion about accepting non-Philippine residents in the regular?
Very good.
The question there is, what happens to the overseas representative? Isn't the overseas representative role is to represent overseas? And these two winners, and deservingly so, and clear winners, especially Sir Suba, are having that bias, the overseas bias. So does that complicate stuff, or was that even a discussion? Was that even considered?
Yes, it was discussed. Yeah, it was discussed. Very good point. Without again divulging the confidential discussions of the tribunal, yes, it was discussed. Yes, a member of the tribunal actually pointed that out. But you have to understand that we act within the boundaries of our bylaws and of course of the rules and regulations that was promulgated by the same tribunal. But within the boundaries of those same bylaws, which was promulgated, I think sometime 2018. That's the latest bylaws. I might be mistaken with the date.
No, you're correct.
Bylaws, it was published.
It was signed by Sir Renato Puno.
Yeah. So if you look at it, there is no disqualification by virtue of being an overseas resident. If you look at the bylaws, no? Also, the bylaws did mention an overseas representative, but it did say that anyone of a particular rank, you can check the bylaws, and is of good standing, can be nominated. So if we really want to limit the regular, quote unquote, the regular Supreme Council, I think it has to be to amend the bylaws. So we did discuss it, and we did think it is our collective opinion. It was a short discussion, if I might say. It is our collective opinion that there is no prohibition for an overseas resident to be able to run for Supreme Council. With regard to fears, I understand the fear that there might be a problem with efficiency, quote unquote. No? Yung mention mo kanina about of the Supreme Council, if all of them are overseas and abroad. Well, that will not happen, I guess, in the near future. If you will look at the voter turnout, there are 947 local electors or voters. there's only 220 plus 15, so there's only 235 for overseas voters. The local voters can easily outvote the overseas voters, as can be proven. You will notice that the votes garnered by Sir Calderon is really very our new supreme commander is really very high. It's,
Now, sir, why even go there? The tradition is that all the regular members. I understand that the bylaw is silent about that, and it doesn't really
prohibit. Yes.
specify that you can't run because
Yes.
you happen to be not residing in the Philippines. But in practicality and by tradition, it's never been done uh, that a regular member was elected to the excuse me yeah from was elected from outside the Philippine uh, area. I was just
Mhm.
wondering why even do that? Why even why even let that potential issue? Uh, why didn't you
Mhm.
stop it there and there?
No, like I mentioned, no, when we decide, there is a hierarchy of frameworks that we decide on, and unfortunately, tradition is on the lower list. I understand the argument that it's a tradition, etc. But the first thing that we need to decide on is based first on the bylaws. Kasi. Again, bylaws, and then after that, rules and regulations, as long as the rules and regulations are within the ambit of the bylaws. So we stop there. If the bylaws does not prohibit, then it would be, to be quite honest, we can also be questioned. We can also be, there is also a legal committee. We can also be questioned by saying, why are you prohibiting us from running when there is no prohibition? So we are, the Electoral Tribunal, while independent of the Supreme Council, has to act within the bylaws. Kasi.
No,
So, yes, that is I admit that within the discussion in the tribunal, tradition was mentioned. But in the hierarchy of deciding, we decide based on the laws first before we even go to tradition.
no, I think not to beat on a dead horse, but the from the present composition of the Supreme Council, two are from Cavite,
Yeah.
two are from Rizal, one from Makati, one from Nueva Vizcaya. These are all North Luzon. These are all Luzon areas, and then
Yeah.
you have this uh, two, three people, one from Australia and two from the USA. Don't you think that don't we have enough talents in the Philippines that we have to get talents from the overseas, thereby hampering a better uh, disbursements of talents in the Knights of Rizal Supreme Council? Because all of them are from the north. All of them are from Luzon. We lost well, to be uh, to be fair, there's only one from Tagum City, which is Mindanao, and one from Dumaguete, which is I think Visayas.
Yes.
So
Yes.
um, it's really not even high. Out of the 17, there's only two not from Luzon. You have
Yeah.
four from Quezon City, one from Manila, one from Valenzuela, one from Laguna that didn't make it, but most predominantly Luzon are
Mhm.
running for this election. Um, so there could be an argument that this coveted seat in the Supreme Council was stolen from the other potential areas.
Yeah. Well, thank you for you're really asking tough questions, But
No,
that's okay. That's
I'm
okay.
asking because maybe could be some because it's really, I mean, if you're from the Visayas and you're from Mindanao, it's
uh,
really, I mean, obviously you don't have to be a member of the Supreme Council to take part. I mean, we have a lot of
yeah. Yeah.
talented people, you know, from other areas
Yeah,
outside Luzon, but it's just not a good presentation on the part
I
of the
understand.
Supreme Council.
But I think now you're with regard to that question, no, my response now is not as a member of the Electoral Tribunal nor as your election administrator, because those positions, ano yan eh, they are like automatic. We act on a certain rule. Siguro, in order to answer that question, we have to expand to what social commentary. Social commentary. I understand. So, as a fellow Knight of Rizal and as a social commenter, not only in Philippine politics but also in KOR politics, I guess, because that's an election. I guess my answer would be, quite honestly, it also reflects what the national sentiments are. Remember, there is a national sentiment on Imperial Manila because the gravity of voters are in Luzon. The population is heavily centric on NCR. In the case of the Knights of Rizal, the number of voters and chapter voters are heavily centric on Rizal, not on NCR.